All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you had a wonderful weekend. We're coming off a wild week of hot data and hot bond yields that gave us a lot of volatility last week. But now this week, we got the CPI, the Fed minutes, and the official start to earnings with the bank stocks reporting. So, Chad, I got the plays. I got the keys. What I need from you, a thumbs up on the video. Make sure you're subscribed. And if you don't know, we are live Monday through Friday. 30 minutes before open, youtube.com/the stock market. We will see you there in the morning. And don't forget, today is Sunday, tomorrow is Monday, and this is the random account generator. And what we ask on this watch list, you post a random option trade, keep it below $100, and we are going to buy it in the morning. Post the strike price, expiration, all that good stuff. But look, that gold play is killing it. We've been on a little bit of a baby streak. So, Chad, keep it up and thank you. You have been killing it, and now, run it, baby.
Working to the couch, it's the 2020 election. Live in the hills, but I still get a spread. Started with a live, but I still reinvest it. Feel how I feel, then it feel like a blessing. I just want the lesson, I just want protection. I'm up and I'm down, but they sound like progression. Farmer never plans if he waits for perfection. Finger to the down, hold it.
Right off the bat, like I said, it's going to be a very exciting week considering the data. However, it may move a little boring to start off. Pretty much, we don't have anything until Wednesday, and then Wednesday is going to be the main event with the CPI. You are going to get those bank stocks on Friday. JP Morgan, Citi, Wells Fargo, they're going to kick everything off. You even get Delta Airlines on Wednesday, so don't forget there's other companies beyond the banks, and then on top of that, you're going to get the Fed minutes and the PPI. Now, obviously, CPI is going to be the main event, and the way the market's looking at it coming into this week, they are expecting a slightly hotter number on core. They expect headline to once again be hotter, but the worry is the month over month. It's going to be around 0.4. Anything higher, it starts to be one of the fastest paces on the month over month in the last year, and the market will not like that. The other thing you got to keep your mind on for the CPI, or that a lot of people are talking about coming into the data, is oil and the price of oil. And as that plays around to this week, it is definitely going to get a lot of people's attention. But all in all, it is all about the CPI. And now, like I'm saying here, don't forget what happened last week. There was a lot of volatility, and I guess I'm going to tie it into key number 2. Number 1, just don't forget, we had a lot of back and forth last week. You had that big sell-off even though you were right near highs, and people were getting worried about the bond yields. And really, I think once again, that is what we're going to see this week, and I think the CPI is going to determine whether or not we see 4.5 on the 10-year or not. And what I'm trying to say is quite simply, if we get a hot CPI and people start freaking out, we may feel it a lot more in the markets, but at the very least, you will start watching the 10-year bond trade above 4.5. If just like last week, we kind of dodge a bullet more or less, the CPI comes in lower, then you will see the 10-year trade below 4.5, and that will help cool things off. Just like any other time, the market has gone near 4.5 and then ended up selling off, both at the rallies towards the end of August, September, but then that didn't last. The markets went down, but even our rally here, right when we fell below 4.5, that got a lot of things going. So it's going to be interesting how this week plays out. The other factor that you're going to have to deal with is there's a lot of Fed speakers, and you remember what happened last week. There was literally Kashkari, Waller, Mester, all of their comments really got things moving. We'll see once again what happens, and like I said last week, they're probably going to be more important than Powell just because they're giving you new information and telling you where they are on the dot plot. So Monday, you're going to get Fed Kashkari again, so that's going to be a good way to start off the week. Then on Wednesday, you're going to get Michelle Bowman, Austin Goolsbee, and the Fed minutes. Then Thursday, you get John Williams, Susan Collins, and then Raphael Bostic. And then on Friday, we're getting Mary Daly. So we've heard from a couple of them already, but like I said, just considering what we saw last week, I would definitely keep that in mind as another little catalyst beyond the data that we're going to be getting this week. Oh, and I don't have it here too. You're also going to get bond auctions. I think there is going to be a 10-year and a 30-year, so we'll see how that plays out. But finally, taking you to the last key, man. It's a big deal from last week, and you see how the markets moved around and we held up within the same range. There was a lot of developments, but I still think we are following that golden path, like Goolsby will put it, or if you want to hear it without it sounding so crazy bullish, what I mean by a path is like we're not following data. We are not moving data set by data set. There's a general story and narrative and path that people are following, which is allowing them to brush off a lot of what you've seen, whether it's a strong dollar or higher bond yields. That's why stocks and equities have maintained higher regardless. So I do think we're on that path, but the story is getting shaky now. And then if the yields do rise, I do think that story will change. And if by the end of the CPI, you also got PPI and even consumer sentiment and the start of earnings here, if we conclude this week with lower rates, I don't think anything has changed and that path will remain. But if we conclude this week with higher rates, that will be a new development, and getting anything above 4.5, I hope you guys see, why is 4.5 such a big deal? There's many fundamental reasons on like real rates and how restrictive or not, but like I'm saying, new story, we start getting 4.5 to 4.75 and 5. There's only been a very short period in time we've been around here. So that's why it's a big deal, because it would actually be some new territory and a new story. So we'll see how it all plays out, but we're definitely going to get a lot. And then even after this start of earnings, it's going to start chugging along and moving into the big stuff. And before you know it, it's going to be summer. But now, let us get into the plays. So, right off the bat, I think a lot of people are going to talk about this in regards to inflation and even moving forward, but it's already a big deal, man. Oil. So it's a big week. It's already breaking out at these high prices, and why I'm saying it's a big week, not only for inflation, but after it's held up after these last couple of weeks and where we're getting in terms of seasonality, you already have people talking about $100 a barrel, and that's kind of wild, especially considering the election and everything going on. This is very unexpected for oil, but it has been holding up. It's been moving with gold and everything else. I would definitely watch out this week if it starts advancing. Brent's already above 90. This is where it's going to start going crazy. If people really are going to get ahead of seasonality and feel like, no, maybe we were wrong and we got to start talking higher oil, $100, things might get wild. And then, of course, watch out for any of the geopolitical tensions. But remember, last week, we had a lot of geopolitical tensions, nothing crazy over the weekend, and we'll see if any of that other stuff materializes this week. So that is play number one. Then play number two, this one's kind of tied into it, a little bit similar, but also a little bit different. And what I'm talking about is uranium and the play CCJ. So I sold out of this last week. I had a really good gain on it, but I'm going to keep my eye on it. I grabbed those puts when I was holding the shares because this thing moves very wild, and it didn't really have that last week. So I want to see what happens, but now even with higher energy, it should be able to benefit off of higher oil prices. So we'll see what it does this week, and people are still talking about the Goldman upgrade from last week and the move it's already made. So keep your eyes out for that this week. And then finally, play number three, Pfizer. So I made a play on this for the long term. I used my deposit. I was going to grab BABA, but then we said we're not going to go for an arbitrary share amount. I would have grabbed Nike, but it's a little bit higher than I would have liked it, and I'd rather build on the progress we've already stacked up with Pfizer. But I went with Pfizer, and it may be a little early. They're still a little bit ahead of ex-dividend, and then they have their annual meeting on April 25th, but I'm going to watch them this week. They're near one of those yearly lows and where we got it, and then there's a lot of news and craziness at this level, so keep your eyes out for that. But that is play number three, and it may not seem like a lot, but why I'm saying that, because obviously watch all the earnings plays. We will do earnings previews this week. I will be going over Delta. We hit 1,000% or even 2,000, I think, on this play as we started last week or last year or last earnings, whatever you want to call it. But you're also going to get JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, and Bank of America. And last time I played any of those, I hit on Citi. I think we also hit on Wells Fargo too, and then JP Morgan I lost because I went early, but this time around it hasn't moved. So maybe day before, this may be one I want to watch. Other than that, keep in mind some of the earnings, and I said this on the stream on Friday. Somebody was asking, do we go early for earnings? And just what I'd keep in mind is other earnings. Pretty much, if you go early without any other good earnings, it's hard to hit a pre-earnings plays. But once a company does good, it kind of starts setting off all the pre-earnings plays for everyone else. So kind of watch that in burst and keep that in mind. So until JP Morgan and all these Friday, we'll see what it does. Then you'll get the follow-up Netflix, Tesla, and even some of them had big moves last week. So we'll watch what happens with all those. But besides that, going to be watching a couple of biotechs. The only other play, I made this play on Friday. What was it? ALNY, I think. Yeah, Alney, they had data over the weekend, and I think it was good. So we made an option play. I ended up grabbing the 175 for April for 38 cents, and I knew they had this presentation. If it ended up being good, the shares were expensive, so risk $38. Maybe we'll wake up to that one being good, so we'll see how that one plays out. And then there's one more. I'm still in the Gildan. Oh, and then I shorted gold. I did a quick one on a big contract towards the end of the day. I am going to be watching that back and forth because it's absolutely insane, so we'll see how that plays out. Maybe I'll get out before open if that could gap down, but right now as I'm filming, the futures are closed, and that is all I have for you. But that is your watch list, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure Hydra Healthy ready to go. Make sure post your watch list. Make sure we see you there in the morning. I need the armor on. I need the helmet shining. And I need you to remember, life is all about momentum. Momentum and streaks. I'm not talking momentum trading. Keep up the momentum everywhere. And remember, as it all falls into place, Chattadonia, I love you all. Drink that water. Stay hydrated and healthy. And let's get a good week. And wake up and drive and start a good but horn.